Firstly, if I can apologise for my voice, and I'll pass to my colleagues very shortly to avoid that agony for people to listen. But can I welcome the Attorneys-General from Canada, the Honourable Rob Nicholson, QC, from the United Kingdom, the Honourable Dominic Grieve, QC, from the United States, Mr. Eric Holder, from New Zealand, Chris Finlayson. We've already had very productive discussions this morning, focusing primarily on the issue of cybersecurity, and during the course of the afternoon, each country will focus on a particular topic of interest that they have prepared a paper on, but we've clearly got a lot in common in terms of the issues that confront our respective countries, and we're able to get some very constructive outcomes given our common traditions and our backgrounds and so many other areas that we cooperate in. But this is a very appropriate forum and has achieved already some very significant results. But I thought I would now pass to my Attorneys-General colleagues, and they would outline the issues that their country has been advocating and generally discuss the forum that has taken place. I thought I might go initially to Eric Holder, the Attorney-General from the United States of America.
Thank you. It is a real privilege to be here today in this beautiful city for the third meeting of the Quintet. I've been fortunate to attend all three meetings of this organization and to host the last one, and I can truly say that the United States has no closer allies. These ties transcend parties and governments in each of our nations, and they are not just partnerships of leaders, but they are partnerships of our peoples. We are covering today topics of extreme importance to the future of our nations: cybercrime, the use of intelligence in legal proceedings, extradition, and of course our ongoing work to counter violent extremism. I know that in each of our previous meetings I have heard new perspectives and learned new approaches that we have then employed in the United States, and I expect that to be true again here today as well. We face these challenges together, and by exchanging information and increasing our collaboration, we only strengthen our ability to successfully confront them. So I look forward to continuing this afternoon the important conversations that we began this morning, and to continuing for many years to come the strong partnership with my friends and with my colleagues. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Eric. And I thought I would ask the Honourable Dominic Grieve, QC, to address us.
Well, thank you very much. This is my first Attorneys-General's Quintet, and indeed my first visit to Australia, and extremely productive it is proving to be. We've had a very constructive morning's discussion on cybercrime, a subject which, for obvious reasons, unites us all, and seeking to find that balance between maintaining freedom and the ability of people to communicate, but also ensuring that the criminality which is committed on the internet can be successfully tackled. And as has been mentioned, this afternoon we have some extremely interesting topics to discuss, all of which we'll be looking at in our shared common law tradition. Issues around the disclosure of evidence to ensure fair trials, but at the same time not to burden prosecutors too much. Issues about preventing violent extremism, which is a common challenge for all of us, as well as other matters. And I think the key to this type of conference is that because we come together as lawyers, as well as politicians in some cases, we bring together a mixture of skills and perhaps a slightly different way of looking at problems than our more overtly political colleagues would do. And that is the great strength of having a gathering of Attorneys General of this type. And so I really welcome the opportunity we've had today, both in our formal discussions and actually also in our informal conversations, to take the agenda forward. And we hope very much that by doing it, we will be able to bring about positive changes in the law, which are in fact to the benefit of everybody.
Thanks, Dominic. And I thought Rob Nicholson, QC.
Well, thank you very much. I want to begin by thanking Australian Attorney General Robert McClellan for hosting this meeting of the Quintet, also for hosting the Commonwealth Law Conference that just concluded, and I appreciate his efforts in that regard, as well as his efforts in the area of cybercrime. We've had an excellent discussion on the whole challenges that's presented by cybercrime. It was reinforced in our discussions the need to make sure that our laws are up to date, to keep up to date with the technology changes in this area, and I found that these discussions very productive, as I have found the discussions in the last couple of Quintet meetings. So I'm looking forward to the discussions in the afternoon, and again, I appreciate all the efforts that have been made to put this together. This has been very helpful. We all share common challenges, common problems. We come from a tradition of working these things out, collaborating and working with each other, and so this has been very productive, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here in Sydney. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. And Chris Finlayson from the New Zealand Attorney-General. Thanks, Chris.
Well, thank you, Rob, for all you've done to make for a very successful meeting. The genesis of the idea of a quintet came when Baroness Scotland, Dominic's predecessor, was visiting Australia and New Zealand a few years ago, and we had our preliminary meeting in London, and I would like to think that it's now a well-established precedent. As others have said, cybercrime raises huge both substantive and procedural issues for all countries. While we may all be looking at ways through in different ways, we're all united in our aim to address this very real problem. So I thought this morning's discussion was particularly useful, and it lays the foundation for further work by officials over the next 12 months. As Rob Nicholson has indicated, there are a whole lot of other interesting issues that we're going to be discussing this afternoon. For example, one that I'm particularly interested in raising with my colleagues is the whole issue of extradition and how we can look at improving extradition, which can be a rather cumbersome method of bringing people to justice. So thanks once again, Rob. It's great to be here.
Thanks very much, Chris. And I thought I might open it up to general questions to the attorneys now. Any questions? Yes, sure.
Kristen Jellin from the Associated Press. My question is for Mr. Holder. Has the U.S. Justice Department launched a formal investigation of Rupert Murdoch's news corps, and if so, under what law or for what violation?
Well, there have been serious allegations raised in that regard in Great Britain, and there's an ongoing investigation there, as is appropriate. There have been members of Congress in the United States who have asked us to investigate those same allegations, and we are progressing in that regard using the appropriate federal law enforcement agencies in the United States.
Miles Wilson from Australian Associated Press. Are you able to disclose any of the specific allegations that are being examined by the FBI currently? And perhaps a hypothetical question further down the track, but would you envisage if there is substantive evidence that UK journalists would be extradited to the US?
Well, I don't really engage in hypothetical questions in the United States, and I'm certainly not going to do so here in this wonderful country.
Sorry, question on the back.
Question for Mr. Rees. Do you expect any prosecutions to arise from the inquiry?
Well, the question of whether there's any prosecution is firstly a matter for the police to investigate. These are very serious allegations currently being looked at. And then secondly, the police will work in conjunction with the Crown Prosecution Service in determining whether there are any charges which should be brought. As you'll appreciate from what's been said, the matter is being taken very seriously. There is a substantial police investigation taking place with a large number of officers involved, and I know that the Crown Prosecution Service are actively involved in providing advice as the investigation proceeds. But for obvious reasons of propriety, I'm certainly not going to comment as to what the outcome of that investigation might be, and we must wait and see what happens.
Yes, sorry, thank you.
Mr. McClelland, I'm Justine Carney from the ABC. Do you think there's a need to toughen up media laws in Australia?
There is an inquiry taking place in respect to media convergence. In respect to issues of privacy, there has been an Australian Law Reform Commission review of privacy. I think it will be inevitable that people will revisit the recommendations arising from that Australian Law Reform Commission report. I'm confident in respect to the issue of interception or the abuse of interception powers that our laws are strong. Basically, the Telecommunications Interception Act prohibits, outlaws interception unless specifically authorised. I think that legal regime is adequate, but inevitably those issues canvassed in the Australian Law Reform Commission report, I think, will now evoke their own public debate.
There is, of course, a debate about journalism ethics. Could you see the government considering laws enforcing journalism?
No, I think it's a very important aspect of democracy to have an independent and robust media, and there will be no suggestion of the government regulating the media. However, it may well be that there is an appropriate dialogue between the community and, for instance, the various press councils and electronic media organisations. It may well be that the public will progress that sort of debate.
Well, as you'll be aware, firstly, the Prime Minister has announced an inquiry by Lord Justice Leveson, which is going to look at a large number of issues, not only the issues as to what happened, but wider issues about press ethics. Linked to that, it's perfectly possible that there could be a review of the way in which the press is regulated. That said, I rather concur with the view that a free press is extremely important. We don't wish to end up, whatever may have happened in this particular case, with a press which is regulated in a manner which is incompatible with freedom of expression. So those are some quite delicate balances. But it seems to me that the first step to take is to entrust this to Lord Justice Leveson. He will be able to look at the surrounding issues of press ethics, and doubtless his report will help inform the debate.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, certainly. Thank you.
Regarding the AusNet tender, have you had any approaches from journalists from the ABC or Sky, and if so, were they appropriate?
I haven't had any approaches, no.
Do you know of any MPs who have?
I don't know of any MPs who have. Yes, certainly.
Honourable Attorney-General, good morning. I'm Khan, the Director of the Legal Affairs Division. Your meeting comes on the back of a very successful Commonwealth Law Institute meeting hosted by the Attorney General of Australia. Some of the issues you've identified that you are considering include issues which have just been discussed before the Commonwealth Law Institute agenda: international cooperation related to some extent to traditional law, Haram scheme, also cybercrime, and also issues around prosecution disclosure, all issues which the whole Commonwealth member states have considered. What role do you think the Commonwealth has in reinforcing and complementing the work you are doing, in the sense that all of these issues are really global issues, they're not actually issues which have individual rules?
Thank you. Well, the first thing is, last night and this morning we discussed that if it wasn't for certain events that occurred in 1775, we would have the United States as part of the Commonwealth. But we have specifically noted the deliberations of the Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting, and the communique will reflect in areas where we think that we can certainly value add to both areas of work by interacting with the very valuable work that's been undertaken during the course of this week at the Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting. Thank you.
I would certainly like to add that I think the Commonwealth Law Ministers Conference is extremely important in this regard. Any forum which allows for a free and easy exchange of ideas on areas of difficulty and helps promote a basis for international understanding is immensely valuable. And the Commonwealth has tried and tested links and an ease of communication which helps facilitate that. So I agree entirely that the Quintet, in a sense, the fact that we're picking up some of the themes that were discussed at the Commonwealth Law Ministers Conference is a reflection that those are common international themes. The question then is how can those best be taken forward? And ultimately, of course, we have to go even beyond the Commonwealth if we're to get the widest possible international agreement. So both fora are, I think, very important in their own way in promoting this dialogue.
Thank you. Well, thanks everyone for coming. Oh, sorry, one question there. Thank you.
I'm sorry, couldn't hear the first part.
Pentagon's admitted suffering a
Oh.
cyber attack. With regard to your
Well, I don't want to comment on any investigation that might be ongoing, but I will say that the whole question of cyber attacks, I think, points up the importance of the conversation that we're having today, the work that we are doing together. We have to deal not only with the question of cyber crime and the way in which the Internet is being used to perpetrate frauds against the citizens of our nations. We also have national security interests that are implicated by the use of these cyber tools. And so it's something we take very seriously and something we are working with our allies to address.
Thank you. Thanks very much, everyone, for coming along. Thank you.